Hey guys, welcome in. It is a loaded weekend. Do I really need to tell you guys all that? No, you know it's a loaded weekend. It's crazy, absolutely crazy. College football, NFL, Major League Baseball, NHL, NBA starts next week. We got preseason games, then we got college basketball. Holy shit, do we got a lot going on here, which is why our good friends over at sportsmemo.com. You've met everybody else. Wanted you to introduce you guys, of course, to Rob Vino's been doing this since, I don't know. I'm trying to think. Maybe Marconi invented radio. He's been around that long, it feels like. Sportsmemo.com. A guy on the West Coast here who's also been killing it, guys, when I tell you, in college football, among others, over at sportsmemo.com. In fact, I'll put the screen up here so you guys can see. That is his page. All you got to do is head over to sportsmemo.com. You'll see the records, the packages, free plays, all sorts of good stuff there. You've been killing it, Rob. Welcome in, man. I mean, you've been absolutely crushing it here over the last, 5-6 months. You've been hammering it.
Yeah, first of all, thanks for having me, Joe. First time with you, so obviously we've done other stuff together the past couple of weeks, but nice to be here. And the college football has been kind. There's no doubt about it. We're on a real good 5-week run right now where we've hit over 62%, which, as everybody knows, will make you a lot of money. And the big plays, the 5%ers, have really been my claim to fame for a lot of years now. I mean, there's a 12-year run there that's I don't want to say unmatched, because there's probably somebody out there that'll say they not only match it but beat it by 3,000 units. But it's been good for about 12 years now. The 5%ers. We have one up and available this weekend. Since last year, we're 13-6 with these 5%, 68%. So, like I say, college football has been kind.
That is awesome, man, and it's we're getting right at that moment of the season here too, Rob. Right, heading into to week 8, where some of these conference games we're kind of starting to learn who the pretenders and who the contenders are, because we're going to know whether or not those soft ass out of conference, out of division games here that we've got going on. Well, if you're going to play cupcakes, it's going to come back to usually haunt you, and it usually comes back right around this time of year now in college.
Yeah, no, it's true, Joe. When you get about midway, like we are now, 6-7 games in for everybody, you can start to separate a lot of things, and you can go back and use common opponents and home and away stuff, which it's a different style of handicap. I always said that college football, really, you can break it into quarters. The first 3 games, the second 3 games, the third 3, and then the final 3. And you have to take a little bit different approach throughout the season. And if you can't adjust on the fly, then you don't survive in this business, that's for sure. You can't take what you have in week 1 and just apply it all the way through 14 weeks of college football and into bowl season. So we're at a different stage right now. And conference games, certainly, weather, all that type of stuff factors in at this point in time. But as you mentioned, the results are probably the biggest thing. We have a pretty good range of results right now. We've got a good look at the injuries that have taken place here. Some teams have been bitten really bad. Just look at the Stanford game and how the line's been pummeled because of quarterback decimation. So, yeah, a lot of things to consider as we go through the college football season.
Yeah, it's nuts, and this weekend is big. And what are your thoughts on these midweek games? We've got a couple, of course, tonight. We got some really good ones on Friday leading into Saturday's action. Over the years, we know the unders have been actually pretty profitable during these midweek games. I mean, they're 18 years old after all, guys. They're not grown-ass professional men, but, asking 18-year-olds in school to all of a sudden perform at such a crazy high level on 3 days of practice it's asking a lot. Doesn't surprise me that the unders have been profitable, but how do you approach these midweek games like the ones we got on the card here tonight, UCLA, Stanford? You mentioned injuries. Does it affect on how you approach these games because it's on a Thursday night?
Yeah, that particular game, Joe, and for multiple reasons, I just scratched off my list. I didn't get involved. It's too hard for me at this point in time to back Chip Kelly's team because they're just so scattered all over the place. It's beginning to look like that comeback against Washington State was so much more of a mirage than reality. Although, that being said, Washington State's defense, if you want to take something from that game, has plummeted ever since then, no matter who the coordinator is. I mean, fire Tracy Claeys, bring in, or elevate two assistants to co-defensive coordinators hasn't mattered for Washington State. But in the case of UCLA, just don't know where to go with these guys. Don't know what that locker room thinks. Don't know what kind of play you're going to get on the field for 60 minutes out of them. So they're difficult. And Stanford, I guess, to an extent, Joe, you could look at the same way because the win over Washington came from nowhere, right? I mean, Stanford comes off of being destroyed by Central Florida. A couple weeks in a row they were destroyed. And then all of a sudden, out of the blue, they handle Washington rather easily. So that could be an indication of a team being brought along by a veteran head coach in David Shaw. And maybe, down the road, they could be played upon. But you know what? The quarterback injury hurts. I mean, they've been really, really hurt by quarterback injuries this year. So to me, that's a complete scratch. The other game that goes tonight out of the Sun Belt, and real quick, let's just get back to philosophy-wise for games, right? I mean, when you have to play Thursday or Wednesday after a Saturday, that makes a big difference. But as we get further down the schedule here, we know that these MAC games that are going to be televised Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, those kids are all getting a full week of preparation because they'll play Tuesday, Wednesday,
right?
Whatever. And I don't know that the total stuff applies when you do still have the full week of practice. In the case of Arkansas State, UL Lafayette, I had mentioned to you off air that I've been a big fan of the UL Lafayette team. And maybe I'm going to get criticized here because I think the folks down there want me to call them Louisiana. But as you mentioned, I've been around since Marconi, so I still to them as UL Lafayette and UL Monroe.
Right.
But it's a physical football team, and they brought over the approach from Alabama. It started to, with the recruiting, it started to bear some fruit here. That running core, led by Trey Regis, is absolutely outstanding. They get good quarterback play. Everything works off the run. And Arkansas State defensively has been an absolute sieve. I think they're giving up like 573 yards per game.
Yep.
That all being said, Joe, we saw a huge increase in the total in this game, and maybe rightfully so, because for their defensive points allowed, UL Lafayette I'm talking about here, only giving up, I think, a maximum of 25 in one game this year. They haven't seen a passing attack like this. Logan Bonner went down. Lane Hatcher stepped in and picked right where he left off. So I think the passing attack is live here. I think both of these offenses are live. We should see, it's why they refer to it as the Fun Belt midweek, right? Because you like to see these offensive circuses, and I think that's what we might see tonight in that game.
You got Raging Cajuns giving up more than 20 points a game. The Red Wolves allowing close to 40 points a game, a la the over here in the mid-60s, mid to upper 60s. Cajuns 8-3 in the last 11 meetings between these two teams. How shocked were you the score we got last week with App State and the Raging Cajuns here? That total was supposed to be in the 70s. What the hell happened there, Rob?
Yeah, probably that total was a little bit too high because of the defensive capabilities of both. However, Appalachian State, Joe, this year hadn't really resembled the defense that they were in the past. I mean, they've been lit up by everybody, so you would have expected, a lot more than what we got, 17-7. Even if it didn't hit 70, you would expect at least, something over 55, and we didn't get it there. I think that was just two teams fully focused on that game. Here it might loosen up a little bit. The passing attack for Arkansas State is, Appalachian State's a better all-around offense, but the passing attack for Arkansas State has just been devastating so far this year.
Rob Vino, sportsmemo.com, guys. One of our good friends over at sportsmemo.com. We encourage you guys to head over there. Check out his page. His 5%er is up there. He's got a play for you guys this weekend you're going to want to be a part of. Check out his handicapping page there at Rob Vino. He's got something for everybody. And, okay, we got games tonight in college. Let's talk a little bit about this NFL game here. I don't know if you're diving in. It seems that I've got two schools of thought here all day long. I've been hearing this, Rob. I've got it's Kansas City, it's Mahomes, it's Andy Reid. They score more points on the road. All I keep hearing is it's Joe Flacco, Joe Flacco, Joe Flacco. This opened up at 5.5. It's been moved down to 3. So somebody's betting on Denver here. And yet the public loves Kansas City. This is a pros versus Joes situation here. What do you see happening here tonight, Rob?
Yeah, I think, the best approach here, Joe, is just from a fundamental standpoint, Denver at the original price was a great play in my estimation. I mean, you have Vic Fangio bringing this defense along. There's a couple of new names on that Denver defense that are making some waves here. And as this season has progressed, that defense has gotten better, a la the victory last week over Tennessee, where they just absolutely, I mean, Tennessee's not the greatest offense in the world, but they dominated. And they've been that way for most of the year. It's the offense that's held them back. However, and who does Kansas City stop? I don't know which defense is softer here. Would it be the Atlanta Falcons or would it be the Kansas City Chiefs? Because both of those defenses just refuse to tackle. And for KC, they rely on Mahomes to outscore people. Getting Tyreek Hill back last week was huge. Having the running core back in full is huge. But Sammy Watkins is still out. And bigger than that, Eric Fisher, the left tackle, is still out. And Mahomes is nursing a bad ankle. So you can subtract a little bit from their explosiveness. Not a ton, because they're still going to be explosive. Mahomes on one ankle is better than 26 other quarterbacks with two good ankles. But in Denver, with that defense, I think anything that you got over 3, you were in a good spot. At 3, it's a little bit scary. I mean, it's hard to play against Kansas City only laying 3. You could see this getting into a higher scoring game. They have to win shootout style. So, if you get to 27-24 Kansas City, I wouldn't be surprised. I think in a lot of ways, Joe, the over is probably the best play here in this game. Right now, where we stand currently with the prices, like I say, earlier Denver would have been a good move. But I think right now, Denver's going to score here. I don't think there's a question that teams score on Kansas City, and they're going to score. So expect KC not to be shut out either. I think we're probably getting over out of this.
Yeah, listen, if you think Denver is going to win, guys, then I wouldn't. The only thing I would play is the money line. I would take the spread out of it altogether. Keep your 3 points. If Denver's going to win at home, Denver's going to win. The better price there at plus 160 right now is staring at you there. If you think Denver can score and keep Mahomes on the sideline, my fear is that Von Miller's going to be on that left side of the offensive line that is now completely decimated for Kansas City. I know where Von Miller's coming from. The question is, can they do anything to stop him getting to Mahomes? Because we've seen it, right? Mahomes is not the same quarterback on a blown-up ankle that he is 100% healthy, and that's the question. At some point in every game, somebody seems to roll up on an ankle, and he seems to become a different quarterback for a half of that game. So, Von Miller staring at me on the other side is a scary proposition if I'm Kansas City.
Yeah, you need a running back or somebody to chip at him. And, of course, Andy Reid's as creative a play caller as you can find. I'm sure that the playbook is a little bit different now, and maybe we roll the opposite way and the ball comes out quicker and all that type of stuff. But you're right. I mean, Von Miller's a scary that scenario plays out, Joe, where one hit and you might not see Mahomes in this game, right? So I'm sure Andy Reid, like I said, other guys calling plays I might not trust as much to protect his quarterback as I trust Andy Reid, because they are great. He's been a great screen pass type of guy his whole career, that type of thing. So I'd look for more of that here, and obviously Travis Kelce would be a big weapon in the offense here tonight against the Denver linebacking corps.
Going to have to be Rob Vino, sportsmemo.com. Guys, make sure you head over to his page at Rob Vino Sports on Twitter. Make sure you are tailing him. And, you got your 5% play up college football coming up this weekend on Saturday, Rob. But one of these, I looked at the schedule and I'm like, does that say Ohio State on a Friday night? Like, am I missing something here? Like, Ohio State is not a Friday night team. At least I didn't think they were. What's going on with this game here tomorrow night?
Yeah, it's crazy because I had thought at one point that the Big Ten refused to play these weeknight games. They play Saturday, and they weren't going for this. But I guess when you can be the focal point of a Friday night audience, why not get your team on there? And Ohio State right now is their team in the Big Ten.
Yep.
Northwestern, Pat Fitzgerald, we feel bad for him. Great coach, great personality, zero offense, and that's troublesome against Ohio State, especially, Joe, the way that they play defense this year. I mean, Ohio State with the defense is about as scary as any team in the country, and I know there's folks out there's a group that believe that they may be the best team in the country. I don't know that I'm that far from feeling that way myself. Power ratings that I keep me away from diving all in on them, because I still power rate Alabama the best, Clemson the second best, and Ohio State third best before they're closing in. And for Northwestern here, I think we saw this, if I remember right, it was last year's Big Ten championship game, and Northwestern hung on as long as they could, and then, the floodgates open, and that's basically what you're going to see here. 28 looks like a huge number. It always does. And I'm not in the business of laying 28 most of the time. But if you had to, I mean, at some point, like I say, the floodgates are going to open up here. Fields has been a great quarterback stepping in for Dwayne Haskins, who's on the Redskins now, and adding that extra dual threat advantage to that offense that Ryan Day loves to utilize. So I could see this game certainly going in Ohio State's favor. But mostly, we just had a discussion on a show earlier today, Joe, about games where the favorite is favored by more than half of the total.
Crazy.
49 total and a 28-point favorite, which obviously indicates there's 3 of those this weekend off the top of my head, but it indicates that the favorite is going to do all of the scoring and the underdog comes along for the ride. So what you're praying for in a game with 49 total, if you can get 10 out of Northwestern, you're probably going to get over this number, and I'm pretty sure they can get to 10, even if it's in a give-up end-of-game situation where they push one across against the Ohio State team that's already got the game sewn up. So maybe for me, over looks like the top play in that game.
One other game I wanted to ask you about over the weekend. You and I, we've talked about this this particular game on another show there with our good friend the Prez over at Wager Talk. But I keep hearing people tell me don't sleep on Michigan, and I'm trying to figure out what am I missing here? Like, is Penn State is there a big enough advantage having that game at a whiteout at home? I mean, is it the normal 3 points? Should it be considered more? Are they just a 3 or 4 point better team than Michigan, and because of the home field and the situation, that's where we're tacking on the extra points here? Because we're looking at 9 here, Rob. Penn State, Michigan. My word, man. Penn State is so overrated in my opinion. But what are you going to say about Michigan? It's not like they've been blowing people out of the water here.
Yeah, somehow the money keeps coming toward Penn State, right, Joe? I don't know how.
It's crazy.
I think, in fact, when you and I talked and analyzed this game, the number was 8.5, and once we finished, it pushed to 9. So somebody listened to us and said, "Man, I'm betting Penn State."
It's crazy.
But I still favor Michigan in the game. It's a team that's not going to be in awe of any venue.
Right.
It's a team that James Franklin has had trouble with in the past. Defensively, you can't separate these two teams. I know that Penn State's gotten a lot of the talk the last couple of weeks because their defensive front is tremendous, and they do get to the quarterback. But the same can be said about a Michigan team that, if you can subtract the Wisconsin game out of the equation, it's a team that's only allowed 243 yards per game. That's good defense. It goes overlooked because Michigan hasn't lived up to expectations, whether they be from their fan base or whether it be from point spread perspective, where guys are betting on Michigan every week and ripping up their tickets at the end of the game, and they're done with Michigan, right? So I think a lot of times that's the time to buy into a team that's pretty good. Especially, we don't see Michigan in this situation of +9 very often. I didn't look, but I'm sure if we go back, we're not going to find very many examples of Michigan being +9, maybe in an Ohio State game where they were the lesser team. But here against Penn State, you and I, we talked about Josh Gaddis, the defensive coordinator for Michigan, and your point well taken that perhaps he got this job off of the back of James Franklin. Gaddis and Franklin have been together since their Vanderbilt days.
Yep.
They ran a nice offense at Penn State after Joe Moorhead left for Mississippi State. But now at Michigan, that diverse offense hasn't been seen. Now, there's one of two ways you look at it, Joe, and I don't know. I'm probably on side B. Side A, Josh Gaddis is a product of James Franklin.
Right.
He can't do it on his own. He's not an offensive coordinator ready for this type of Power 5 conference play. Or B, is Jim Harbaugh the block that's in the way of this offense becoming more, more explosive, more spread type, which is what we thought heading into the season, right? Instead of being prehistoric, let's get with the times here, Jim Harbaugh. And it's interesting, Joe, because in his college career, his steps along the way have all been with ground-oriented, stagnant type, Bo Schembechler, Woody Hayes type offense. At Stanford, it was a run first, obviously, approach, play defense, run the football. San Diego University, run the football, play defense. Here at Michigan, it's been run the football, but the play calling is as predictable as the day is long with Jim Harbaugh. So I don't know which to believe. I don't know if it is a fault of Josh Gaddis's or if it is he's impeded, his offensive philosophy and system is impeded by Jim Harbaugh stepping in and, basically taking over. He is the head coach.
And it's funny, we were talking, it's such an interesting job there because Harbaugh is not on the hot seat. Even if he loses to Penn State, right? I mean, he's still, the ultimate test for him is going to be Ohio State. And it's such a strange job, Rob, right? Like, beat Michigan, you beat Ohio State, and we're going to forgive a lot of other sins here. And it's crazy to me that that's basically what that job is. Like, you could suck all year long. You beat Ohio State, and you're coming back another year. You're going to be hailed as a hero in that town. It's crazy to me.
Yeah, I mean, he can score some bonus points with the fan base and with the university by beating Penn State, but that doesn't save your job. What saves your job, whether you get fired or whether you stay, depends upon Ohio State. John Cooper, a great example of that with Ohio State. The other side of that rivalry in the late 90s, John Cooper was just about run out of town because he beat Michigan. Finally, he did, and they accepted him for a short time afterward. But you're absolutely right. I mean, this comes down to the Ohio State-Michigan game, much like the Auburn-Alabama rivalry down south. I mean, it's a 364-day bragging right type deal or, being PO'd type deal. So you have to win that particular game to keep the job. There's no doubt about it. Harbaugh hasn't been able to do it. He was not successful last year. Ohio State blew him out, so we'll see if he can be better this year.
Yep, absolutely. And we're going to see if we can't go ahead, put a few bucks in your pocket here. Games tonight we gave you, games tomorrow, and then, of course, Saturday, 5%. Rob's got his play up at sportsmemo.com. We would certainly encourage you guys to check it out. Rob's always posting his plays up there right now, sportsmemo.com. Just head over to Rob's page. You'll see it, the 5% play. And really, Rob, over the last 5 weeks, man, and your 5% plays forever. It's what you're known for, my friend. It's exactly what you're known for. You are Johnny 5%. It's amazing to me. You pull them out, man, and people should know if you're not sure what that means. Not every play is a 5%, Rob. Like, there's only a handful of plays every month that you signal out that you go, this is a special play.
Yeah, in college football, especially, Joe, the last 12 years, I think it dates back to 2007. It's just been an incredible run here. Generally speaking, where I'm concerned, every Saturday, clients look forward to the 5% play. There's enough for us to choose from on a huge slate where I can generally come up with one. Last week, I did not have one, and actually got a few complaints from people. Hey, Rob, where's the 5% play? So this week we have one, found one we really, really like. So go ahead and, as Joe mentioned, head over to sportsmemo.com. You can pick it up there and then pick up the whole weekend while you're at it.
Get you there, guys. Sportsmemo.com. Great site, great stuff. Make sure you're following Rob on Twitter. Tail him now at Rob Vino Sports. Rob, pleasure. Thank you very much for stopping by, hanging out with us, man. Good luck with your plays, and we look forward to talking to you again, man.
Yeah, thanks for having me, Joe. It's a pleasure. I'll talk to you again.
You got it. Wager Talk, Sports Memo, Rob Vino. You got a whole lot of places to be able to make a whole lot of money this weekend. Take advantage. Head over to sportsmemo.com.